have literally written down notes and I'm going to be reading from them. When you're growing up, you're portrayed this canopy of things in the movies and in your shows that you watch, is that your 20s are supposed to be chaotic and you're supposed to be loud, you're supposed to be part of these huge friend circles and friend groups. But like, what if you aren't? And I'm actually a big proof of the fact that not having friends group is actually a lot of fun. When I turned 20, I felt like everything was so serious around me and I was so confused on what to do with this big age, and I started to narrow myself down to just, you know, people and things that actually I am learning and benefiting from. And this might be very toxic or very mean and or selfish, you might say, but I read this quote somewhere which was, show me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are, which implies how, you know, your character and your future are influenced by the people that you're surrounded by. And regardless of the people that I was sitting and talking to in my in my teens, I couldn't see myself being influenced as a good person later on by them, which is what led me to eventually, you know, separate ways from almost every single one of my friends group from high school, from college. When I did so, I realized that these people were only interested in this specific version of myself, which is to have fun, to look a certain type of way, to be a certain person. And when you're down and when you're feeling all these different types of things, these people will not be the one who are going to, you know, lift you up. And when I realized that, I think I hit the jackpot at that age. I realized that even I'm not seeing myself for who I am, and I wanted to discover myself as a person, let alone just a part of a group. I don't want to be stuck in a friend group under somebody, because that's never going to benefit you. How is being somebody's shadow ever going to benefit you? And I thought to myself, okay, who is Muzna? Have you ever had lunch with yourself alone in a public space? I highly recommend doing so, because just the way you place an order, how you talk to the person taking your order, how you're cleaning up after yourself, how you're tipping and how you're paying, everything describes you, everything shapes you. These experiences build you as a person. And you wouldn't know this. You're like, okay, these are just like, at this point you're just, you know, rambling about stuff that you can do, but this is actual stuff that builds your character. So when you're with somebody else, they're noticing, okay, how you're cleaning up after yourself, or, you know, placing an order XYZ. But when you're just with yourself, you are noticing all these habits of yourself and you're judging yourself from another person's perspective. You start to see things that you're probably doing wrong. You're seeing stuff that, you know, you're probably missing out on. You're seeing stuff that you start to correct yourself, which is such a big blessing. Because I'll be honest, when I was socializing every day and I was trying to keep up with everybody's life, calling everybody, gossiping about nothing, and it's just, what did that bring me? I think about it, I love a good gossip, honestly. I'm never going to be that person who's going to be like, oh, I'm never going to gossip. It's good and refreshing, but what addition does it do to me as a person who is building herself from down below? Nothing. And it gets exhausting when you have to hang around with people all the time. You have to put up this persona. You're never true to who you are unless you have figured yourself out. So when I started hanging around with myself alone, I actually started loving myself. I started loving who this person really is. While other people obviously, you know, loved me for who I was in these outdoorsy, expensive places, I started loving myself in the quietness. I started loving myself, you know, alone, not under somebody's shadow, just, you know, probably. I remember the first time I was at home alone, because, you know, I lived in a joint family. The biggest catch here is that I lived in a joint family from a very early age, and I was always with somebody. So the first time I was home alone, I cannot explain to you how different that feeling was, because I've never been home alone. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? I was, first of all, for the first few minutes I was scared. I was like, what am I supposed to do home alone when I have always been around company to talk to? I remember I was watching this show, and it was called Sex and the City, and I took out a pen and a paper and I started writing down my thoughts on the outfits. And I did that for the entire season, and I realized that I absolutely love the way clothes look. I love the way clothes look, and I love the way, you know, patterns look together. And that's where I developed my interest for just drawing sketches of like clothes. And that was the craziest, most uncanny discovery about myself. And I wouldn't have realized that if I was in home alone that one specific day. that I wouldn't have realized that I actually love the expression that clothes will give you. Like, okay, yeah, you can always, you know, buy clothes off rack, but what's the joy of creating an article of clothing? And I went to fashion school in XYZ, rest is history. But just this little thing that I figured out about myself by just sitting at home was so interesting to me. And I thought to myself, what else can I figure out about myself? And I eventually found myself canceling all these plans with these people. I used to have the biggest FOMO ever. I was so obsessed with showing up at every social gathering. If my friends texted, okay, we're gonna meet today at Xander's XYZ, I will always RSVP and I will always be there. Now I'm just glad to be in my comfortable sweats at home doing my own thing, because I'm not going by somebody's schedule. I'm somebody who gets really irritated by people not following a schedule, and if somebody doesn't, you know, abide by the timeline, I simply cancel. And I'm okay with that. I don't care if that ruins a friendship. I don't care if that makes me a certain type of person. But if you're not going to respect my time, I'm not gonna bounce around or go through hoops, because, you know, I have commitments. I have a life to do. And even though if I'm not doing anything after that, when I come back home, I have a certain regimen planned, and you are interrupting with that. So I don't want that. Khalas. I don't want that in my life. And these are the things that I discovered when I started spending time with myself. Like, I get irritated when people are late. I hate waiting for stuff. I hate waiting for people to show up. That's just my biggest ick. I realized that I absolutely hate waiting, and I obviously was really quick to cancel on plans when my friends would make me wait. That was me setting a boundary, and that was possibly the first boundary I was ever setting up, when I gave people so much accessibility to myself that I'm always showing up at every single plan, I'm always replying to texts, I'm always online, I'm always available. Because I had this FOMO, I realized that I was also diminished in value because I am always there. I am always an economic major in my A levels. How the hell did I not piece this together that scarcity is equals to more value? And I just put that 2 and 2 together, and I was like, khalas, I'm not going to be available for all of these people who are absolutely not available for me. And I just, when I did that, when I set up boundaries for my own self and I stopped being a people pleaser, I started to, you know, enjoy my own little weirdness that was going on. I don't have to, you know, give myself rules. I don't have to be strict on myself. I show up for my own self, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I swear on God, I believe that with my whole chest, that if I'm not constantly in a plan, I'm the biggest loser ever. If I'm staying at home, I loved staying at home with my mom so much that my mom became my best friend so quickly. I love my mom so much. Literally, she'd be like, oh, let's go to the market to just look at, you know, clothes, and I'm like, yes. Absolutely. She'd be like, drive me here, can we go run some errands? And I learned how to drive recently. At that point I was 21, and she was ecstatic about it. She enjoyed my company so much. She was the first person where I felt like I was needed, because I was so scarcely available to her prior, because I was always so busy with my friends and everything. I was needed by her, and I was appreciated in such a good way that it made everything feel so much better. I was literally happy to run around, like doing errands and all of these little things that we go. Me and my mom started going on lunches, and I was beyond happy about that. That was the most fun we ever had. So me and my mom just, you know, started making our own things happen. Like, we're going to the mall, we're shopping together, we're getting little things. And I was like, when I'm unavailable to all these other people who don't need me, I'm available to the person who absolutely appreciates me. Then I figured out that, okay, that is just the biggest blessing ever, to just be around this person who loves me so much. So we can say that being a loner actually helped me, you know, figure out these different traits about myself and become a better person. And like, while being the socialite in your teens is quite literally the norm, everybody is going to these different parties, meeting different people, socializing, I did that too, and I'm never gonna look down on somebody who does that. There's a time when you should learn how to put a stop to that and just explore who you are as a person, your personalities as a person, and you're gonna actually benefit so much from that. And if being alone means you're choosing peace over all this chaos, I will a million times, 100 and trillion times choose that person over whatever you chaotic people are doing. Just be a loner, do your own thing, spend time with yourself. You don't always constantly need company. You don't always need to have like a person yapping in your ear. Just all of this is just giving peak main character. You know how main characters has this great breakthrough and they're just, you know, taking themselves out? That's main character energy. So if you want to exhibit that, go date yourself.